may know him as the Condo King and for his incredible success in the real estate market. What you don't know is the depth and breadth of his insight, compassionate care, and commitment to social justice, not to mention his love of art and his support for artists who are also champions of social justice. Bob Rennie is and has always been a powerful advocate for others and an exceptional contributor to our community. Thank you, Bob, for sitting with us for this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. This is just like lunch with Carol.
Did you ever think, I'm going to grow up and be a big real estate mogul?
I'm still not a real estate mogul. No.
But why real estate? Why at 19 did you think, this is something I'd like to do?
I lived in a complicated household. We learn nicer words as we get old. I lived in a complicated household, and my mother, from probably the time I was 12 till 18, left my father 17 times. But on one of the last times, she said, I'm selling the house. A smart guy, but I had no education, but I could gather current knowledge. Something just hit me that, oh, you can find what sold this week as opposed to have an MBA and understand a lot. And I was just graduating, which I didn't graduate. I quit school 3 months early. So I sent away for my bartender's license and my real estate license. And whichever one came, because I worked at the spaghetti factory, so I understood that world. Whichever one came first, that's what I was going to do. And the real estate license came through first.
And so why do you think that you, when there's so many thousands who try it, have been so successful at it?
I tell the office that I placed an internal bet that nobody could work harder than me. Nobody could put in the hours that I would put in. And so I could go up against anybody, and soon realized that enthusiasm is probably the greatest sales tool. As I watched a lot of negativity in my industry and everywhere else, I was just always trying to find a positive, but didn't realize that I was always doing everything data-based. Is it Robert Monahan saying that everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but nobody's entitled to their own data? I was doing that for a couple of years. I mean, there's no life. I would put up sold signs, for sale signs, drop off interim agreements and interim addendums between midnight and 2 a.m, and sometimes Miyako would drive with me. It was insane because I didn't have assistants then, or I didn't think of it.
And you became so successful in real estate and recognized as successful, and then you decided, I'm good at this, how am I at the stock market?
Ooh, they said you're not mean. No, I joke about it. I got lucky in the stock market very early, and then started thinking I was a guru in the market. And in 1982, when my son Christopher was born, we lost everything.
So during that difficult period, did you actually come face to face with bankruptcy?
We met with lawyers, and they all said go bankrupt. And I said, I can't. It's my fragile ego. I just said, I can't. And they said, but that's what you have to do. And we said, no. And we just set up a structured plan and paid it off and got through. But I think those are the guideposts of why we get to sit here today, and why you think I'm worthy of talking to is we persevered, is we stayed in. I can't say I ever got depressed over it, because I've always thought that we're 1,000 times ahead of where we should have been in life. So what if you end up only 500 times ahead? It's okay. And I think at every point, I've always thought that we're ahead of any expectations. So a setback isn't as biggest setback because I didn't start with a business trust or a family that was in business.
You've used two words about yourself that's interesting in terms of self-identification: fragile and depressed. You're not depressed, but you are fragile.
Yeah, I always tell people, but I usually actually, I say, just because I look fragile, I'm not. I think we're all fragile and we're all sensitive, but I also believe that our weaknesses become our strengths because we work on them. You pay attention to your weaknesses, or you should. Maybe there's a lot of people that don't, but they become your strengths because they're your catalyst, they're your protagonist. That's what you work against.
With your knowledge of the real estate market and data, which you've always relied on, can you give me a big picture about housing within Vancouver and British Columbia, without being specific to today, but what do you see happening to prices and availability?
We look at everything through two different lenses. One, is this politics or is it policy? Are you politicking, or is this really a direction that is sustainable for your mandate and scalable for whoever else takes over leadership? And the other thing, is it social jewelry or social justice? Well, housing sits where it's at because everybody has used it as social jewelry. You can become elected or unseated if you are pro-density. And our thing is, this answers the question, is housing is a science. We know where immigration is going. We're going to be approaching immigration of 500,000 per year within 2 years. We have more births than deaths coming to Canada by the mid-2030s, I think by the end of this decade for British Columbia. And then, so if you just know those, if you know births and deaths and immigration, and then you start to look at jobs. You start to look at just Vancouver, Mount Pleasant and downtown, 5 million square feet of job space, 35,000 jobs. Nobody is marrying it to housing. We have a councillor, I can't think of it, Hardwick, who says no more development. Well, if that's true, let's get to the bottom of it and tear down an apartment building a week until we fix this. But all of this social jewelry of no development can get you elected, but where are your children going to live? And we're sitting with a land mass, I think in the city of Vancouver, 56% of it is single family housing. That's an archaic model. So to go back to it, I think housing is far too politicized. Let's get back to data. Let's make it a science. But we have something unique going on right now, that when David Eby and the NDP are pro-supply, it's to find a solution. When right-wing Liberal government is pro-supply, it's to line the pockets of the developers. So it's so politicized that we haven't been able to have a healthy conversation. But I think we're realizing more and more that we do need supply. Having a foreign buyer tax on a $12 million house has nothing to do with local incomes. A vacant $20 million home has nothing to do with local incomes. But everybody, you know, I'll say it, our premier wanted something. Christy Clark wanted something that was visibly against the Chinese population, because that's politicking. That's not policy. And I think the foreign buyer tax caused a level of racism that we can't unwind. It wasn't the solution. Yet when Bob says that, it's, well, no, he sells to foreign money. We don't market offshore. We market here. And whenever I came up with a statistic that the independent building that we did, it was called the Independent, at Kingsway and Broadway, was only 3% foreign buyers. The next line in the media is, well, he doesn't sell offshore. You can't have it both ways. We don't sell offshore. Our data is pure. So we have to get away from, we have to get away from the politicking and what is policy, and get away from the social jewelry that'll get me elected, and let's get down to what is real social justice, is solving housing for the demographics that are being missed out.
So you really feel strongly that the foreign buyers tax has done permanent damage to our multicultural sensitivities?
Yeah, it was aimed at China. It was aimed at our Chinese population. But somebody will watch this and go, oh, he just wants more foreign buyers. No, we have to be very careful today with what Mr. Trump has brought to the surface of we're getting just too comfortable hating people.
That's rough.
I believe this stuff. But it was the tipping point. History will show this.
So looking at where we're at with all of the bits and pieces of taxes and attempts to change the situation of inequality within the city, what solutions would you propose right now if we could do it based on politics, not jewelry?
I left
not politics.
Yeah.
Not jewelry.
Not jewelry.
Policy.
Yeah. So I've suggested when Joy McPhail did her housing study and we were asked to present, that what we really need is the provincial and federal government to come in and incentivize municipal governments to cause real supply. I can't change it. They need political cover.
You have been so interested in public policy and politics as long as I've known you, for sure. Do you ever get the feeling that, well, there's no point in trying to get politicians to listen?
Yeah, I think the problem today is the strength of social media, that it's very difficult to get, as Tom Friedman's book says, we don't let anybody, thank you for being late, it's called, we don't let anybody get to the second sentence anymore. We just hear it and we just attack it, rather than let's get to the second and third paragraph, because we're all just a little bit right of center or a little bit left of center. I am way left of center on social good and social justice, and I am right of center on fiscal policy. But each side attacks you for where you stand on the other topic, and it's becoming very difficult.
And speaking of getting attacked, you certainly got nailed for giving fundraising dinners.
Yeah. $25,000 a person. But I did it in a public forum where I admitted what I was doing. How many dinners have you been here that we've had for mental health or non-political, where we ask people to give money? It's old-fashioned fundraising. I love that it's only $1,200 now. I'm out.
Did the controversy hurt you?
It upset me for a little bit, and then you just go back to, why should everybody like me or all the other people you're interviewing, that they don't know us? It really hurts me as if somebody that I know and value, it would hurt me if you thought I was doing something wrong. I'd have to sit down and go, I am. How can I correct it? But when people that don't know you attack you, that's our new social media.
Why did you not ever go into politics yourself?
When I left Mieko in '92, and the kids were young, I had to offer the kids something. They don't even remember this, but my pledge to myself and to the kids was, I will never be a visible LGBTQ activist. I gave them, in '92, there's a tough enough card to give your kids that dad's gay. And they would never, ever have siblings. I don't date married men anymore. No. But I would never have a partner that wanted kids or had children. So there are my kids. And I'd never went to politics. Because I think my voice, I was starting to use it a little bit. And they didn't need, because to have a visible dad in Burnaby, I only had Sven Robinson and Howard Carter.
Was that a really hard decision to come to? You were married, family, public figure, and all of a sudden you decide, I'm coming out.
It's, can we live a false life? Can we have an arranged marriage? Can we live a sham? And it's no. We're going to have to deal with this. And I actually thought I would lose my career. But you go, okay, can't do that to Mieko. I'm not a saint for the position I've taken, but can't do that, but what a heavy hand to deal the kids. You know, I tell this story, I don't know whether you include it in this here or not, but I was at Kit's Pool, right over here, sitting on the edge, and my youngest daughter, who would have been 6, swam over and said, "Are you gay?" I said, "Am I gay? Am I gay? At this moment, right this moment, am I gay? No." And so I phoned Mieko and I said, "We're in trouble."
Bob, when you say you moved here, we're surrounded everywhere you look with art.
Yeah, it's why I work.
It's why you work.
Yeah.
Art is your passion.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm very critical of collecting community. You can buy with your eye and your heart, or you can buy with your ear.
Oh.
And so you're told that's a good investment. If you buy that artist, you will never lose. So we have a saying that I own trophies. We don't buy trophies. We support artists earlier in their career. And I did something that it's actually at the top of the stairs. It's the most important painting in the collection. Carrie James Marshall told me somewhere in the late 90s, a black artist, African-American artist, said to me, "Bob, if you go in a museum and you don't see a black figure in a painting, you think it doesn't belong." And I'm paraphrasing, but we're going to change that. I have no idea how I would be aware of a Bonham's Furniture auction in Los Angeles, but I became aware, and in it was Carrie James Marshall's Invisible Man from 1986. And I paid $54,000 for it. And a dealer in LA phoned and ridiculed me that, "What are you doing? It's a $20,000 painting. What are you thinking?" I said, "I don't know, I think it's foundational to this man's career." And it really started, we were already on a journey of social justice in the collection, but it cemented it, that not being seen. And so we can take the psychology of myself and being, coming from very poor or humble beginnings in East Vancouver, dealing with my own sexuality in the early 90s, dealing with Black America, dealing with our Indigenous population. Black American and Indigenous population is nothing compared to what I went through. Sorry, I am nothing compared to what they went through, nothing. But you can relate to not being seen.
And to put it in context, one of his works sold recently for
$9 billion. A lot. No, I make fun of it.
25 million.
Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, paid $22 million for a painting that will never have the cultural significance of the Invisible Man.
You then decided you wanted to build your own museum.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the Wing Sang building.
So I think it was 2 months before I went to the top of the back building. It was 6 stories, and there was 2 feet deep of dead pigeons. And because the windows got broken, and pigeons would come in and fly around and get through the stairway and just die. Okay? They couldn't get out. And then we went through a 5-year restoration. And between buying it as an extension of our living room and moving the offices there, we decided that we would open to the public.
How much did that renovation cost?
$22 million on a budget of $8 million.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we're really proud of it.
It must be emotional, this decision you've made to in a sense, give this space back to the Chinese community?
It was, just because I bowl every night, my kids don't want to go bowling every night. So we started to put those longer term decisions in, and we are transferring the building to the Chinese Canadian Museum. They're buying it and we're helping them out too.
One other area that we can only slightly touch on because it's so complicated and deep is mental health and addictions. You've done so much in giving back to the community and trying to move initiatives along. Do you ever feel like it's hopeless?
It's hopeless unless we decide that we're all going to really make it a priority. And the other thing is, you can't have a bright, shiny Chinatown and not address the mental health and addiction of Hastings Street. It can't happen. So I think that I want to use my voice a bit, that this is a very unique opportunity to band Chinatown together and maybe the Gastown merchants. And let's understand what Chinatown has to become, but it can't unless it deals with helping out its neighbors on Hastings Street. But we're going to have to do something radical. If we have 3,200 people living on the street, maybe we have to hire 3,200 people for 2 years and go person on person to understand what their healthcare needs, what their family needs, what their drug addiction needs are, because it's just a revolving door now that, I think you can go to emergency at St. Paul's or VGH and they will tell you the first names of the 82 people that are there 3 times a week. We have to deal with it. And any politician that I talk to, I ask them why we can't post opioid deaths next to COVID deaths. And I think there'll be so many studies coming out of COVID of we weren't equipped. We are not equipped.
Did it affect your mental health, COVID?
I think my breakdown was at the first 3 months when we were really shut down. I walked 25 to 30 miles a day, 40 to 45,000 steps a day on the phone, phoning. I kept all the notes, phoning everybody all over the world. And I just kept, and locally, and saying that if I can't shake your hand, I want to let you know I want to. If I can't hug you, I want to let you know I want to.
We have to relearn some new ways of connecting, I think.
Yeah, but it's letting people know that you wish you could be with them. Because I think when we're not with them, we just think, well, they know they can't be with me, I can't be with them, but people, we need each other more now.
Thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you. A bit of therapy, but thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for all your contributions to our community.
Oh, I haven't done enough yet. Thank you.
Bob Rennie, a BC legend.